Hi, welcome to the Art of Shame-Free Living podcast. So I've been doing this podcast for a while now, for a few months. I don't know how many episodes I've done, 30, 40 episodes, something like that. And I have a little podcast announcement, but it makes more sense when you listen to today's topic on obligation. So I'm going to talk about obligation first. I took a few notes so I don't forget, but obligation is a word that came up on a coaching session where I was getting coached by somebody else a few weeks ago. It might have been more than a few weeks ago. And since then, I've been pondering a lot on it. If you know anything about human design, I love human design. I highly suggest you look into human design. You can find your free report online anywhere. I'm a manifesting generator. And manifesting generators, their energy works in such a way where we follow what's joyful. So if something sparks joy, if we're excited about something, if something sounds fun, like that is the way. And that is what opens up just energy for creation, energy for things to be working. It opens up. For me, it feels like receiving, where I'm receiving what it is that I want, the kind of relationships that I want, the clients that I want, the kind of business that I want. So joyful, energy, fun, excitement, those have been really important energies in my life as I have been working through this. And obligation for me just feels like this cold, hard stone. It feels like exactly like the opposite energy. And so the reason why it's important is because as we're living in alignment with our human design, and I'll give this caveat about human design in that it's not going to tell you something that you don't already know about yourself. But as you read about your design, you're going to be like, yeah, that is me. And it's going to give you more permission to be who you already are instead of trying to fit yourself in a box that maybe you have mysteriously given yourself that you haven't realized that you have. So I want to offer to look at it through that lens. It's not going to just be like, here are all these things that you didn't know, but it'll be more of a remembering of something of who you are and what you do know about yourself. So for me, that energy and excitement is really important. And as people live within their energy, live within their human design, live more them, even if you don't believe in human design, the more you that you are in the world, the more you bless the world. And as you are blessed and are a blessing to others, the more the world in general just increases, it amplifies. There's more positive energy to go around. If I'm feeling good about me and myself and my family and my life, I'm going to go out in the world and I'm going to serve more. I'm going to, maybe I donate to charities more. Maybe I smile at somebody on the street. Maybe I open somebody's door. Maybe I offer to pay for their meal or something. Things will change throughout the day because of how I feel about myself, about my life, about my world, about my relationships. And because of that, I am sending more light, more love, more goodness into the world. And that's why it matters. So back to obligation. Obligation to me feels like the opposite, feels like this cold, hard, stiff energy. And so during this coaching session where I was being coached, we were talking about teenagehood. And she's like, it feels like it's connected to kind of your teenage years. She's like, where did obligation come up? So I was kind of thinking in this inner child type way of like, when I was a teenager, what was I feeling? What was I thinking? What did that look like? And it definitely felt to me like there was some pressure on who I thought I had to be, right? At school, who I felt like I looked around at other people. This is who I need to be. Maybe even within my classes or my grades, maybe even within my home, there was definitely requirements put on me about, I didn't feel like I could say no. And even if I did say no, it wasn't usually honored or respected. It was usually like, no, you actually just have to do this, right? Do you feel that way when you were a little kid? Like so much powerlessness. That's what it felt like to me. So much weakness. Like there's nothing I can do. I don't have control over my life. Other people choose it for me. And that's what the energy of obligation felt like back then. And that's what the energy of obligation feels like for me now. So I love the etymology of words. I talk about this all the time, but it's derived from obligare, which implies being physically or figuratively tied up or bound by law or duty. And that is exactly the energy that I had as I was thinking back as a child or as a teenager or as a young mom. All of those moments in time where I felt obligation, it felt like I was bound up, I was tied up, I was constricted. And there was so much pressure building inside. I actually think that's where a lot of my anger and rage came from. But there was a lot of pressure building up inside. And it didn't feel like I had control of that. Like I couldn't be let out. And what was being constricted, what was being bound up was me, was myself, was who I actually am. And obligation feels like it's crushing me. It feels like it's pressure towards me. So there's a ton of ways in my life where I've cut that obligation, where I have allowed myself to be more me, where I've taken off those cords that feel like they're binding me and I've run free and been able to feel this like openness and expansiveness of what it's like to really be me. But every once in a while, these old feelings come back: force, pressure, powerlessness, obligation. And as I felt into those, I was like, ooh, where in my life am I still feeling that way? Because I know that what's really happening is that I'm not being fully me in those moments. And how could I be more fully me? Because I know that that's how I'll also bless the world. I've probably said this before, but there's universal truth, a universal principle. What is good for me is good for the world. And I think that's true on a macro and a micro level. So on a macro level, if something is not good for the world, it's not going to be good for me. If something is not good for me, it's not going to be good for the world. But even on a small little level, like how in my business, how is in my life, how in my relationships, am I still living through this, even a tiny, tiny little sense of obligation where I'm not really being me? And I don't think that getting rid of obligation means now I don't care about other people. Now I just do everything for myself. I don't think that getting rid of obligation means selfishness. And here's why. I believe that this concept of reciprocity, what's good for me is good for the world, is beautiful and is true. And so the more that something is good for me, the more that something's good for the world, I'm going to be more in line with this energy of reciprocity. And it will be good for everyone. It will be good for my business. It will be good for my husband. It will be good for my physical health. It will be good for my family. It will be good for everyone involved. And that feels less like obligation and more like honoring, more like connection, more like community. Like I understand that my influence impacts other people, that we're all intertwined, that we're all connected. It's almost like it moves me to like a good sense of obligation, and not obligation, but like reciprocity. Like I understand how interconnected and intertwined we are all with the earth itself, with nature itself, but also with each other. So I know that whatever I break away out of that like cold, hard, stony feeling of obligation is going to be helpful for the people around me, for my children, for my husband, for my business. So I started to ask myself this, like, where am I feeling this kind of stickiness, this kind of like heaviness, this kind of obligation energy? I used to call myself a people pleaser, and I'm definitely not that anymore, but that has come through this work. And part of that, this concept that I heard was weaknesses are our strengths overdone. And I love the part of my strength overdone that is the part of me that's compassionate, that's loving, that cares so deeply about people. And that's what drives people pleasing, I think, is this love, deep love of people. And I get to keep that within this concept of reciprocity, but not at the expense of my own self, not where I'm losing myself. Because if I'm losing myself, if I'm burnt out and stressed out and overwhelmed, it's not actually good for my world, right? Think about all of the things that you said yes to, and then you felt resentful, quietly bitter, frustrated. Maybe your frustrated feelings have really exploded. That's totally happened to me in the past. That probably wasn't good for the people around you. That probably wasn't good for your actual family that you're living with in your house, because everything is connected. You can't feel one way at work and then feel the other way at home. Like things are going to spill out into all of the different realms of your life. So obligation versus reciprocity, and noticing the energy that I'm in. Am I in this energy of connection and love and support, or am I in this energy that feels hard and crushing? Learning is always spiraled. It's always cyclical. We used to think that it was like go from A to B and then you get there, but it's not that way at all. And I think especially when it comes to emotional, spiritual learning and healing, what we notice is that we come back around again to the same lessons. So even though I've had this lesson in really big ways, now it feels like I'm having this lesson in kind of a spiraled, deeper way, a more subtle way. And so those subtle feelings of obligation, how are they crushing my soul? How are they crushing my spirit? How am I not showing up in the world in a way that I want to, that feels organic, that feels like me, that feels fluid because of the sense of obligation? And why am I not doing that? And I think sometimes we say that we want freedom, right? At the core, we really want freedom. Why do you want more wealth? Why do you want better relationships? Why do you want better health? Like you want to be able to be free to be you and to live life and experience life in the way that you want it to be. But also I think at our core, we kind of fear that freedom. What will other people think? Will I be hurt by it? Will I be able to handle it? Will it be too much for me? Will I fail? Can I handle failure? Do I actually want freedom as much as I say that I want freedom? Or maybe I don't. So it just brought up a lot. So the more that I'm looking to obligation, where is this showing up in my life? The more I'm noticing like some fear and some blocks. And so this is what I've been working with for a while. And so I noticed a little bit coming up in school. So my kids have traditionally been homeschooled for a long time. For about 14 years, we've been doing homeschool. And over the last couple of years, we've been transitioning a bit. And so we've been trying new things. So one of them is doing kind of a hybrid program where it's half homeschool and half public school. Another one's doing kind of an alternate school program where they go to a school type campus one day a week and then they do the rest at home. but it's been very different from what we've done in the past. And because of that difference, I noticed our freedom and creativity getting really squashed because of my sense of obligation. So the teacher said, we have to do this, so we must do this. Or this context of like, good grades matter most. Good grades matter. And we need to be at the top of the class. This energy that I had when I was little. And it's not that it was getting put on us physically by other people, but it's definitely something that I felt creeping in. And I could tell that it was really dampening our homeschooling situation. It was really dampening our educational situation because of the obligation that I myself felt about my kids and what schooling should be now. So that was one area that I noticed, okay, there's obligation in here. How can I cut those cords? If I'm feeling like I'm being bound, they're probably feeling that same way, my kids. How can we cut these? How can we decide like, it's fine, there's a good enough-ism in it. We don't have to take on the expectations that someone else has given us. And my expectation at the very beginning of this year for one of my kids who struggles really seriously with anxiety was for them just to go, to like every week just to go, to get out of the house and do this thing that was like monumentally difficult for them. And once we got past that hurdle, it was so easy for me to fall into the trap of like, but we're also here to get good grades and to learn all the things and to check all the boxes. And I noticed I was just really getting back into that box state, not being in my own environment of homeschool like I typically am. And so I've been moving out of that little bit by little bit, trying to release the things that feel like pressure and move more into the energy and openness and excitement. And as I was kind of perusing my business internally, I was like, what things feel like obligation? And I'll tell you what those things are for me. One is posting regularly. Anything. It can be an Instagram post. It can be a Substack post. It can be like writing something and sharing it, but I should have something to say and I should share it with the world. Notice how that energy feels like I should have something to say. It should be important. Maybe it should be life-changing. Maybe it should break your brain. And also I should share it with the world. And as I started kind of meandering through my different thoughts around this, what I settled on was like, no, my greatest art is me. My greatest art is the changes that happen within me. Sometimes my words are just for me. Maybe the person that's changed most by my art, by my words, by my change is myself, which I actually believe to be true. And that felt so much better. And that felt like this pressure of like, I don't actually have to share any of this. I don't have to share what I don't want to share. And I don't always have to have something really potent or powerful or astute to say that just changes somebody's life every moment that I'm speaking or writing. And so I went off social media for a few weeks and that felt good. And I'm actually going to do that again. I'm probably going to continuously do that again over and over and over again, because it's also really leaning into this belief of like, I actually believe in manifestation and that's how I build my business. And I believe that there's a multitude of ways that you can build your business. And if I believe that the universe is my marketing plan, if manifestation is my marketing plan, social media actually isn't needed, isn't something that I need in order to grow my business. And so as I went off social media for a few weeks, I still was getting clients, things were still moving and flowing. And I just felt like this is kind of another little way that I can experiment and test with manifestation in a deeper way for my own self. The other area that I felt sticky in was my podcast, this podcast. Even though I love it, I love like speaking and sitting and sharing and connecting. I love that you guys listen to it, whoever it is that listens or watches to it. But I did notice that the routine of having it out every single week felt like obligation to me. I have been told by very smart podcast people over the years, I've read it, I've heard it, all the things that like you need to be committed and you need to be consistent and disciplined and just put it out there every week. But is it more important to be consistent and disciplined and put something out there every week that maybe loses its sparkle, that maybe loses its energy, that maybe doesn't really land energetically with anyone? Or is it more important to keep that sparkle, to keep that shine, to keep that fluidity, even if it means that I don't know when I'm going to post the next podcast episode, which feels a little scary to say, but maybe it's weird that it's scary to me, but this is the world that I've been in for so long. And so it actually does feel scary to cut that tie. But I also know, like, is it more important for me just to share when I feel called to share, when I feel the energy, when I feel the spark, when I know it's something that's really deeply important? In that moment when I share, it lands differently. You feel it differently. I feel it differently. It doesn't feel like I am being crushed by obligation, and what's being crushed is myself. It doesn't feel like that anymore. So I don't know if I'm going to post a podcast episode next week. I don't know when the next one will be, but I have other ideas and things kind of mulling around in my mind. So who knows? But I just want to offer that I love that you're here. I'm grateful for you being here. And I hope that this shift is good for both of us. I believe that it must be, because what's good for me is good for the world. So maybe my episodes will be more potent. Maybe it'll land magically in your inbox or however you get notified of it. And you'll just be like, oh, I'm so excited. There's one today that you didn't even know was coming. Maybe it'll feel like a surprise instead of like, got to go in every week and see what's going on there. So that's what I'm going to do moving forward, because I move towards what's uncomfortable. I move towards what I'm resisting, because I have seen over and over and over again the fruits of that. And this one I know is going to be really hard for me. I'm not sure why, but I can feel it. I can feel already internally that this is really hard for me. And thanks for being here on this journey. So no, I'm not quitting. But yes, I don't know what regularity this will go by and what this podcast will change and how it will be. I guess we'll both find out. One thing I want to end with is I'm having another women's retreat in September, and the one in April sold out pretty quickly. So if this is something you're interested, go and check on the link. I'll be sharing it publicly via email and social media and whatnot in a couple of weeks, but I thought I would let you know too. I will have a link here. It's just coachcrystal.ca/retreat. And yeah, I hope that this message landed with you somewhere deep in your soul, because I do want the words that I say to matter. And I feel the ones that matter, and I feel the ones that I don't really think matter. And I don't want to talk just to talk. And I don't want to talk out of obligation. I want to be an example of someone who leads through discomfort, who leads towards resistance, who is more me in every aspect, in deeper and deeper and more cyclical and more layered ways. And this is my way. So I guess farewell for now. It might not even be farewell for now. If you're like, you just posted another one next week, I don't even know. I actually don't even know what I'm posting next. But I want you to know that I won't be doing it from obligation, that I'll be waiting until the inspiration strikes. My intuition is like, yep, this is something to share. And then I'll share it. And hopefully you're here for it. If not, I'll be here for it still. And you can always join my email list. I'll make sure to have a link to that as well, because emails lately and for a long time have not felt like obligation to me. I only send out emails when inspiration strikes and when I want to. So pop over to my inbox, and I love my emails. I love the words that I share. And lately I've had a lot of responses saying like, I love the words that you've been sending to us lately. They just feel so good. And I can tell when they are. And so pop over to that if you want some of that goodness. And it's a way to stay connected even when I'm not on social media or my podcast. And my hope for you is the same. How can you be more you this week? How can you drop some of those cords that you feel like are binding you, that are like the cords of obligation? And how can you move more into being more yourself, being more fully alive and present, and understanding that that actually will be better for the world too. Okay, we'll see you when we see you.